May I start by apologizing to honorable members for our delay in commencing business. Most of you, or some of you, will confirm that we as a bureau, we came into the chamber much earlier. By 9:15, there were about 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 MPs in the chamber, 8, 9:15. And I think that number went to about 9:20. Then it started improving. But even by 9:30, there were less than 20. So that's an apology from your side. Then we went back to the office for a very urgent meeting because the chamber was not ready. And that urgent meeting is about the water situation on our premises. But in terms of, I think, punctuality, we may have to have a debate among ourselves as members of parliament as to why we can't start at 8 or so at 9. I think we need a debate on that one because you get MPs who instruct drivers to pick them at 9 when the session starts at 9. And that's very unfortunate. Please, we are honorable. Honorable means a person of high integrity and dignity. Let's start business at 9. The transport situation has improved and we can be at PAP at the right time. Although I also heard that part of the delay this morning was because of the accreditation, which was a bit slow. So because of accreditation, some of you were late, fine. So we hope the situation will then improve. Coming to the water situation, it's really bad. It's embarrassing for us. The reason we are told the city municipal authorities are having problems delivering water to provide that service. The question is, but the other part of Galaga has water. The surrounding hotels have water. So why not at PAP? We are told some of these private premises have sunk boreholes or they have tanks in which they buy water when there's a crisis. We also proposed that let's do the same for PAP. Why don't we buy water from some mobile deliveries? Then we put water in the PAP tank. And then we address the problem. We are again advised that PAP premises have no reservoir. We don't have tank in these buildings. There's nowhere where there's a reservoir for water. So we can't buy water, put it in a reservoir for our use. We have to rely on the city water. If we buy water and it's delivered, it can only go into buckets. It can only go into buckets in the various sanitary facilities around. So that's one option. Get buckets whilst the problem is being resolved. You are aware that it is the responsibility of the South African government through their Department of International Relations and Cooperation, which is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, to provide us with these premises and water. DECO are saying they are working on it flat out to see that the problem is addressed. But at the moment, nothing has been, okay, we don't see the water here. So the question is, do we continue sitting? Of course, we can't go back. This is just the second day of the sitting. We can't go back to our countries. That can be a solution. One solution we've asked DECO to do is to find us another place, a hotel suitable, or in the Galaga premises if they've adequate space, such as this chamber, and also interpretation facilities available. That we have not received feedback yet as to whether we can relocate until the water situation is resolved here. So if we don't, the other option is for you to go back to hotels and connect virtually, and we proceed like that until the situation improves. Of course, there's no guarantee that when everybody goes to hotels, they will be on virtual meetings, although we can still record the attendance. But virtual meeting attendance, as you know, sometimes can be tricky. But that's another option. Today, we have the statement from the chairperson of the African Union, His Excellency Musa Faki. It's pre-recorded, so that one can be handled because it can be played at any time when it's convenient. We have a virtual presentation from the Deputy Chairperson of the Union, Dr. Monique Sanzabaganwa. Then we have NEPAD, Peace and Security, Political Affairs, Peace and Security, and Africa Risk Capacity Building. Those are the presentations for today. So whether we should proceed with those presentations, have water in the buckets for today, maybe tomorrow we do committee business from hotels, as we try to resolve the situation. It is not an easy situation, but we can't abandon everything. And for that matter, I include the announcement that the Africa Risk Capacity Building, who are presenting today, have funded or sponsored a dinner for us all tonight at Galaga. I believe it's 6 p.m.? 6:30 at Galaga, all of us, there's dinner. If we ask them and say, can you postpone because we're in this situation, Galaga already says, no, some of the, we started preparing and bought everything 5 days ago, so we cannot postpone the dinner. So that's the dinner. Just want to make that announcement. So our view as a bureau, we met as bureau, and the head of the secretariat, and agreed that we should proceed today, having water in buckets, not the best arrangement. And as we monitor the situation, by end of day, we'll advise if anything had changed and if we had to proceed to another location, or we do virtually from hotels, or we come back and be in our committees and using buckets. I think that is something to be decided upon by end of day. So for now, with your concurrence, we can move to the presentations from the chairperson, deputy chairperson, and there's one also from the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. Then NEPAD, yes. Thank you. Another announcement. Those honorable members who applied passports, AU passports, in September, the passport team from the AU is here with your passports. Maybe you've already collected, but those who don't know, please go and collect your passports. The new members will also visit the AU passport office, which is here, to apply also for their passports. Honorable members, pursuant to the provision of Rule 38(1) of Rules of Procedure, it is with great pleasure that I ask the clerk to connect virtually His Excellency Moussa Faki, Chairperson of the African Union Commission.
Honorable Fortune.
Honorable Fortune Charumbila, President of Pan-African Parliament, honorable members of the Pan-African Parliament, dear representatives of the African people. Today, it is with immense respect that I address you to pay homage to the dimension of your status in the architecture of our organization and to share my ideas on the state of the African Union in this moment. I also have to leave after 2 terms at the head of the African Union. as representatives of different nations and cultures of Africa. This august assembly incarnates the dreams of our founding fathers based on the states and directed by its leaders in its conception. The Pan-African Parliament was envisaged to be the voice of the people within the African Union, where we try to forge an integrated, prosperous Africa. At inception, the Parliament was supposed to guarantee that the structures of our organization reflect the needs, the aspirations, the values, and ambitions of our people. This common vision has guided our union through triumphs, tribulations, and challenges. Together, we have advanced initiatives such as the African Free Trade Agreement, which aims, as you know, to accelerate intra-African trade. We have also worked without sparing any efforts to resolve the challenges of conflicts on the continent, to try and silence the guns, and we have achieved a lot in terms of integrating the continent. We have increased and amplified the voice of Africa on the world stage by having a collective voice to ensure that Africa speaks with one voice. And we have ensured as well that Africa should appear as a critical player, a key player, and considered and sought, whose voice is sought on the international stage. And we committed ourselves to have a vision that goes beyond national interests and national personal ideas. And we, in this sense, try to have a common will and a common vision guided by Agenda 2063. On the internal level, the union has undertaken a number of institutional changes in order to guarantee its financial independence and to rework its operational structures to meet the aspirations of African people. These reforms aim to take the African Union and make it more efficient, more transparent, more financially independent. Financial independence is a key pillar of our independence, and in terms of that, so we need to be more independent of external donors so that we focus more on Africa's challenges. I am conscious of the fact that we still have a lot to do in terms of general funding, and especially in raising funds for the Pan-African Parliament in order to give it the wherewithal to meet its mandate. While the union deliberates on these fundraising strategies on the continental level, it is imperative to have an adequate allocation of resources to the Parliament. Equally, the necessity to reform the structures of the Parliament have to be met so that it operates optimally. And obviously, it is going to be done with diligence as we have committed ourselves to. Agenda 2063, which is our common agenda for a prosperous, peaceful, and integrated Africa, has to be achieved, and for that we also need to give priority to internal and external strategic partners which have federated their support to this vision. It is not just a document, it is a vision to transform and meet the aspirations of the African people. It is continuous action notably, for example, on the part of the Pan-African Parliament as the watchdogs of this vision. And so your role in the national policies and the stabilization of member states within the framework of controls in the Parliament is essential to achieving this vision. Africa has made considerable progress on the international stage. The historic inclusion of Africa in the General Assembly of the United Nations gives it a voice to have critical discussions on the economic policy, the debt reduction and cancellations, and other priorities. As an essential member of the G20, the African Union has a platform that enables it to influence directly the economic policies of the world. On this issue, Africa's voice shall be important in global affairs, and the African Union on this score has to assume its responsibilities and play an important role at the service of our people. An increasing consensus to support peace initiatives in Africa for a permanent representation in the Security Council of the United Nations is really one of our priorities. And Africa is seeking its key role that it plays in peace and security at global level, given the number of conflicts that are playing out at continental level. Thanks to the efforts of the African leaders, linked also to the diplomatic efforts of the Pan-African Parliament, actions are increasing in this sense. The future of the African Union as the driver of global affairs is a priority for us all. And in this context, I invite the Pan-African Parliament to exercise its constitutional mandate to work with its brother and sister parliamentarians in the rest of the world to strengthen other efforts and other continental efforts for increased representations and stronger voice for Africa in the concert of global levels and in the Security Council of the United Nations. Despite these remarkable achievements, we are confronted with key and formidable challenges, one of which the African Union is facing, is the decline of the Pan-African spirit. These past few years, we have witnessed a decline in Pan-Africanism, a growing egoism and self-interest almost everywhere in the world. This collapse of the Pan-Africanism really saps the collective vision that has been guiding the African Union since its birth. It weakens our belief in our intellectual and moral capacity, and it kneecaps our fight in all areas, internal as well as external. Today, more than ever, the work of the Pan-African Parliament, the People's Parliament, is to fill this gap, is to facilitate collaboration and to represent the voice of the people. Your role is crucial for a renaissance of Pan-Africanism. It is essential that you continue to defend the Pan-African vision so that it remains alive and pertinent for the African vision. in my address to your August Assembly on 7 May 2018 in Midrand. At the very beginning of my first term, I had with faith and conscience said, and I quote, looking at the commitment that animates you, it is time to ask how to inspire this will to, and the answer precedes any questioning on the necessity of the Pan-African Parliament. And this question and this answer have become even more pertinent today. And so they are really priorities that we must meet. Honorable representatives.
Has reached the fullness of its institutional maturity, thanks to your collective wisdom and high sense of responsibility. It has also successfully overcome its initial difficulties. It is therefore high time to ensure the transformation from a consultative body to a parliamentary institution with full legislative powers. As my term of office as chairperson of the African Union Commissions comes to an end, I would like to extend my best wishes to you for progress, strength, and success. I'm also convinced that no contract the Pan-African Parliament will work with the other organs of our union to achieve its objectives towards the Africa we want. I thank you for your attention.
For those pre-recorded, we can still clap again in appreciation. What do I say now?
Yes, we can do this one.
And I'll move to this one straight. Thank you very much. The speech from the chairperson of the African Union Commission. I'm actually impressed. Some of the key statements he has made, that the PAP was envisaged to be the voice of the people, the voice in health, the voice of the people in transport issues, industry, energy, education, women issues, youth issues. I can't exhaust the whole list of committees, but it means every committee should know that we are the voice of the people within that particular portfolio, and that our structures should reflect the needs of the people, which means our plans, our strategic plan should reflect the needs of the people, and that we are responsible for integrating Africa, for trade, silencing the guns, and ensuring that Africa has a voice on the world stage, and that we promote and ensure implementation of a common vision guided by Agenda 2063. And that PAP is very important in achieving the AU vision. the chairperson also lamented the collapse of Pan-Africanism and has called upon Pan-African Parliament to fill this gap that is between the founding fathers' own vision of Pan-Africanism and the state of affairs. And he calls for the renaissance of Pan-Africanism. And that Pan-African Parliament should take a lead in reviving Pan-Africanism. And of course, with our diaspora yesterday and their presentations, I think we're moving in the direction that will achieve. And PAP has reached fullness of maturity. And that he calls upon the Union to grant full legislative powers. And that the PAP should work with other organs. All these statements are very important for our strategic plan and for our own committee plans. Are we working with other organs? Are we planning in silos? So that, I think there are some key statements that we need to take note of. At this stage, may I request the clerk to connect Excellency Dr. Monique Sanzabaganwa.
Your Excellency, President of the Pan-African Parliament, I'm connected.
Thank you very much. I now call upon Excellency Dr. Monique Sanzabaganwa, who is the Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, to present a speech.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Honorable President, Fortune Charumbira, President of the Pan-African Parliament, members of the Bureau, members of the Parliament, all protocol observed. The privilege to talk after my President, His Excellency Mr. Faki Mahamat, who stressed those important points and also stressed the point on reform, institutional reform that is covering, among others, the sustainable financing of the Union. Your Excellencies, you represent the hopes of Africa and vision of Africa. And the decisions made in the House echo across our continent, propelling us towards the united and prosperous Africa envisioned by Agenda 2063. Your role in legislation, policy harmonization, oversight, accountability, and interparliamentary diplomacy are crucial. These roles empower us to build the Africa we want collectively. In my address to the high-level workshop on result-based planning, budgeting, reporting, and management for the Pan-African Parliament held on 13 September this year, I stressed the pivotal role PAP will play in popularizing and domesticating the goals of Agenda 2063 and its second decade plan, which is a decade for acceleration. Your role through aligning PAP's strategic plan to the union-wide 5-year strategy and the second 10-year implementation plan of Agenda 2063, your role in monitoring and accountability, your role in advocacy and popularizing of Agenda 2063, your role as a catalyst for national integration of Agenda 2063 in national budgets and policies, and your role as bridge builder in the AU and national governments. You already started playing a part, and I commend your collective efforts. Indeed, your upcoming 5-year strategic plan aligns with several moonshots from the second 10-year implementation plan, Agenda 2063, planning from 2024 to 2053. Honorable members of the Pan-African Parliament, today I would like to revisit our journey towards self-financing for the African Union. In 2015, the Assembly of Heads of State and Government, meeting in South Africa, adopted Decision 578, setting progressive targets to reach self-financing over 5 years. 3 targets: 100% of the operational budget should be funded by member state assessed contribution. 75% of the program budget and 25% of the peace support operations budget of the Union should be shouldered by member states assessed contributions. 1 year after, in Kigali, 2016, a subsequent decision was taken, which instituted a 0.2% import levy as a resource mobilization mechanism to support member states in meeting their contributions. The Assembly directed the Commission to reform the Union to ensure accountability and transparency in the resource use, reducing dependency on external donors. Almost a decade since historic decisions, the financial sustainability of our Union still calls for our collective efforts. We must congratulate member states on meeting the first target of the funded operational budget. However, their contribution in program budget, which rose from 6% in 2016 to 45% in 2019, has since been declining and stands at 9% in 2025 budget. In this year's budget, it stands at 12%. So from 12, it's going further down to 9% next year. This is far, of course, from the 75% envisaged. Progress on the 25% target on peace support operations has been also sporadic. It was just above 4% in 2017, had declined to 3% in 2020, and to nil between 2021 and 2023. It's only in 2024 that an exceptional effort was made to the level of contributing 11% of peace support operations needs. Unfortunately, for the next year, 2025, budget that was voted in July this year in Accra, the share of member states' assessed contributions again dropped to nil. Not all is lost, though. The achievements on the Peace Fund are commendable. Disbursements to the Peace Fund have almost attained the initial endowment of $400 million that member states have set. They have contributed more than 95%, and I'm sure by end of this year or very soon, even 100% will be fully paid. And these millions are being invested by our fund managers and are earning an interest. We have even started tapping some of the interest income fund peace support initiatives. The fund is overseen by a state-of-the-art governance structure, including an external board of trustees, an independent evaluation group, and professional fund managers. These are in addition to the executive management team comprising the chairperson of the commission, the deputy chairperson of the commission, and the commissioner in charge of political affairs and peace and security. The union has also underperformed on the levy, the 0.2% levy on eligible imports, with only 17 countries who have domesticated this levy since 2019. This situation challenges our commitment to a financially sustainable African Union funded, owned by Africans. In 2021, a cap of $250 million on the member states' assessed contributions was introduced as a temporary measure to help member states navigate the economic impacts of COVID-19. However, not only has this capping persisted beyond the pandemic, but also contributions have consistently fallen short, stabilizing around 200 million of contributions every year. Compounding this shortfall, the union's operational needs have grown, particularly with the establishment of essential offices such as the FCFT Secretariat and the Africa CDC and many others, demanding more significant financial commitment. Continuous efforts are also being made to ensure that budgets are prepared to reflect priorities and approved plans. While the union has seen an improvement in the expenditure on the budget, this is against available budget, from 68% in 2015 to 85% in 2023. The rate of implementation of activities, also referred to as the technical execution rate, has been rather low. This speaks to serious issues, including imperfections in result-based planning and budgeting, slow implementation of reforms, staff shortages, and delays or arrears in disbursements, both on the member state side and our partner sides, that have resulted in limited budgets. Honorable members of the Pan-African Parliament urgently needed to reverse this funding trend to ensure sufficient resources for the union's critical programs. At the same time, a culture of result-based planning, budgeting, monitoring, and reporting will guarantee that all implementing entities of the union work collaboratively to uphold principles of value for money and accountability that we owe to our member states and the citizens. To secure predictable and sustainable financing for the African Union, I encourage this August Assembly to work closely with national parliaments and other stakeholders on the following priorities. 1, advocate for the fulfillment of financial commitments. Indeed, actively advocating for adherence to the Johannesburg financing targets of 100%, 75%, and 25%, and also to fully implement the African Union 0.2% import levy, ensuring member states' collective support for a self-reliant union. Number 2, to ensure timely and full contributions. This House suggested to support initiatives to guarantee that member states fulfill their assessed contributions in full and on time, upholding principles of capacity to pay, equitable burden sharing, and solidarity. Predictable funding is essential for our union's stability and effectiveness. Number 3, to strengthen domestic resource mobilization. There is need to encourage and facilitate efforts to enhance domestic resource mobilization, fostering the institutional capacity of our member states to generate and manage resources effectively, thereby supporting the union's financial sustainability among many needs that we have. In conclusion, our leadership shines a light on Africa's path forward. Together, we are shaping the Africa we want and the Africa to be inherited by our children, an Africa where our people thrive and our unity strengthens us. I urge you, through your interparliamentary roles and established structures, including the Conference of Speakers of African Parliaments and the Conference of Clerks and Secretary Generals of national and regional parliaments, to champion a commitment by the African Union member states to fully fund the African Union. Let us work together to ensure that the Union is sustainably financed by Africans and for Africans. Vos Excellences, je voudrais aussi vous signaler.
Your Excellency, I would like also to point out that we have circulated a document a little bit more detailed about this report on stability and financial sustainability of the Union, which unfortunately we have not been able to translate into all the languages of the AU, but I hope that it will be put at your disposal and it will help you to consider this issue of funds, and I'll remain available in order to respond to all your questions which you would raise, and also to receive your comments and also your words of wisdom concerning this problem which I have just referred to. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Excellency, Dr. Monique Sanza Bangano. Can we give another louder applause? Your Excellency, we are happy that you said you'll be available to listen to debate or contributions by members of parliament to your presentation. And because of the appetite also for the top leadership in the union, the debate may even encroach into areas that were presented by His Excellency Musa Faki, but because you are the deputy, I think we can handle everything. Honorable members, I now open for debate, and there's a list of 11 members who have registered to contribute on the presentation. Those that have just gained interest, as usual, you can send in papers. The first to take the floor will be Honorable Yusuf Mohammed Al-Fakri from Libya.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Good morning to you. Morning greetings to all the members who are present in this hall. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for giving me the floor to be the first participant into this session of this morning. My statement will be confined to the presentation that was made by the chairperson of the AUC. The chairperson of the AUC have spoken about the difficulties that are faced by the African Union as concerns the financial resources. And and we as members of the PAP and also as representatives of the peoples of Africa know very well that there is a great problem that is being faced by the African Union as concerns the financial resources. But I would have hoped that the chairperson of the AUC would share with us concise and precise information about what's happening within the African Union Commission on the contributions in order for us to help him. He must know that we as members representing member states and that we can, through our governments, have an impact on our governments in order to support the African Union. The other issue that I would like which the President has referred to is about the role of the Pan-African Parliament. And he has spoken about the leading role that PAP should have in order to work together with regional and international organizations. This is very important. We know that the chairperson of the AUC is about to leave, and the Commission is about to elect a new chairperson. And the statement that he has made is very important because it is an incentive to the Pan-African Parliament in playing its role in representing the peoples of Africa, and incentive also to the newcomers to the AUC, and also. The chairperson has also recognized that there are some difficulties that are faced by countries. And also he has encouraged governments to sign the protocol attached to the Pan-African Parliament. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Yusuf. Next to take the floor is Honorable Kouchami Fagnon, Benin.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I should like to congratulate the chairperson of the African Union Commission and the presentation of Dr. Monique. The two speakers have recognized the role of coordinator and supervision. They have spoken about the bridge that the Pan-African Parliament has with governments. We need to take this opportunity. Dr. Monique has spoken about the problem of advocacy and resource mobilization with the governments. We had mentioned this earlier in our proposal for action in terms of strategy to be implemented by the Pan-African Parliament. We are delighted to find out that, and Dr. Monique agrees, that we need to concentrate on results, and we have to materialize the objectives of everything that we need to do to ensure the vitality of our parliament in terms of the strategic plan. The relationship also between our parliament and national parliaments is very important. Let us review our working method, make the actions of Pan-African Parliament visible. In terms of treaties that need to be signed and ratified, the colleague who spoke before me mentioned this. Well, in fact, what we need to do is we need a minimum budget. In 2025, we need to take the opportunity to have an annual work plan that represents the challenge that the Pan-African Parliament is a bridge between with governments, so that we can start being very active and proactive for our peoples. I should like to suggest, Mr. President, that, well, you see that in our countries, sports development is very important, and you can see the number of private companies, whether they be banks, insurance companies, airlines, industrial companies, that we should have a resolution so that a certain amount is dedicated to fill the coffers of the African Union, as it is done in sport. It's not huge amounts of money, but it is the economies of scale when you see that, for example, in 40 countries, all these private companies sponsor sports. So we should improve the quality of our partnerships with technical and financial partners. And if PAP mobilizes funds with partners, that should be very positive for us. We have great hope so that the Pan-African Parliament regains its vitality for the member states and for the peoples of Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Fanyu. Next, take the floor, Honorable Mamelo Mpoko, Lesotho.
I apologize. I registered for disaster management, not for. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mohamed Segres, Algeria.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, prayers be upon His Prophet. In fact, while I'm listening to this report, I felt sad because of the situation of the African Union. This union, which is the founding fathers put goals for it in order to help the rise of the continent. Those were big and ambitious goals to help the continent. However, the financial situation is not promising. I'm not going to go through the details of the report, but I would like to remind us of some points. If the African continent wants to create this rise up and this development, then the continent needs, first of all, that those who run the business, the presidents and the heads of institutions, they have to feel and believe in these goals, first of all. Through the listening to the report and seeing the big lack in the finance, which is not really reaching the hope of all those who look into it, we might think that there is no sincere work towards those goals. I hope I'm mistaken, but I think that there should be a strong belief of the goals that the founding fathers put. We can say that the lack of finance and might push the African Union into the external funding. However, this external funding is not coming for free. It's always tied up to pushing the union to agree to foreign agendas, and I belong to a country which is called Algeria, and the slogan is sovereignty of the country over its resources and its financial independence, and our slogan is the auto-efficiency, and this is what we want for Africa. Therefore, we wish that all the African countries follow the same and push for self-efficiency and the full sovereignty over its land and its resources. So if we look at the situation of the African Union and see that it is in this lack of finance and might go and ask for foreign funds that will push it into not being dependent. And we look at the African situation and we see countries that are not enjoying that full unity. So in that sense, I think that the continent might not be able to reach that development that we aspire to. Those are some points that I wanted to mention. So what I ask for is a stand up, and I think that the members of the parliament has a role to play because they are the representatives of their people. And I believe that the African Union is required to come with non-traditional ways to tackle the subject in order to be able to finance with its own resources its activities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Sagris. Next, take the floor, Honorable Senator Danson Mungatana, Kenya.
Bwana Rais.
Chair, I'd like to know if I can use Kiswahili and if the interpreter is all set. Thank you very much. Chair, I would like to seize this opportunity to extend my gratitude for the great presentation of Mustafaki and the presentation made by his vice. My question goes to His Excellency Mustafaki and Dr. Monique. We have spoken a lot about adding funds provided by African countries for the African Union. My question is that I myself, as Kenya and other countries, when I give my money as a normal citizen, I would like to know how this money is spent. As we call it in English, oversight. What I would like to ask is that why you, as the leaders of African Union, AUC, why don't you bring these commissioners and your leaders to these PAP committees that represent the voice of citizens who would ask questions about how the money is spent at the African Union? When I came here as the PAP MP, I see Mustafaki for the first time. My question is that why don't you send these commissioners to these PAP committees so that when I go back home in Nairobi, I can tell them the money you send to the African Union and those commissioners responsible, we have inspected them and we have known how our money has been spent. Therefore, you can continue to contribute. But now, Dr. Monique, you tell us that we should do the advocacy back home. But you don't come to tell us how you spend this money. And it's quite difficult for us. We don't know what to say because maybe citizens would ask us, why don't you tell us how you spend this money and you want us to add? So I would like to find out why. The second and last, we as MPs of Africa, we urged that you should arrange those who want to occupy Mr. Faki's vacancy should come to this parliament to talk with African citizens and to us who represent those African citizens so that they can tell us their policies. What are they going to do once they occupy these vacancies so that they can explain their strategies and plans, what they are going to do with African Union and us as Parliament. And I would like to know whether you have gotten this opinion or you think this is positive or not, because once they come to this parliament, for those who will fail, will know, and those who succeed will know. We would like them to come, and we want to know your plans and strategies. We would like them to come and inform us. Thank you very much, Chairperson, for this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Honorable Salek Abdrahman Musa, Sahrawi Republic.
In the name of Allah, thank you, Mr. President, for giving me the floor. The observation that I wanted to raise is exactly what was said by my colleague from Kenya, and that is the question of why all the interventions of the African Union are online. Years ago, we used to come to this chamber. We used to receive the commissioners from the African Union, the chair of the commission, and the rest of the commissioners in order to give us the state of the African Union and peace and security and some other interventions on their part. However, it is strange that is changed, and we ask, is this due to their own occupation with their own business? I'm afraid that the African Union is not giving the same importance to the Pan-African Parliament, which actually should be allocated to it as being one of the most important organs of the African Union. However, I would ask, why do we have all those online interventions and not present in-person interventions from these commissioners? I would like to have an answer to that. Thank you very much.
Shukran. Next, take the floor is Honorable Estam Tony Passaris.
Thank you, Mr. President, for giving me this opportunity to contribute. I would like to thank both His Excellency Moussa Faki, the chairperson of the Africa Union Commission, and Her Excellency Dr. Monique Nzanza Bangawa for the presentations that they made. I would like to say that the vision of having the African Union and the Pan-African Parliament were very good. But they were founded on certain principles, and they were founded with a vision. The vision has still been misunderstood, and I think we're actually pitted against each other rather than working together. When I talk about the African Union and the Pan-African Parliament, I believe that when we solve the problems between the African Union and the recognition of the African Union of the significance of the Pan-African Parliament being made to have the necessary resources, being given the legislative power, being independent and able to actually oversight the union itself, that's when we'll be able to achieve the vision. Because right now, it's like they police themselves and they police us, and they don't want to give us the strength that we need to be able to do the work. I mean, in Moussa Faki's statement, he did mention that he wants and he hopes that the Pan-African Parliament, having resolved the past problems that it's had, would be able to have legislative power. It's a shame that that is not one of the things that he attained, and I really pray that my party leader, the Right Honourable Raila Amolo Odinga, the outgoing party leader for the ODM party, who is now a candidate in the AUC, will actually be able to do what is necessary. He's a father of devolution. He believes in independence and growth of countries and units within countries. So with that vision that he comes with and that strength, hopefully we will be able to make the Pan-African Parliament independent, well-resourced, with legislative powers, with committees to oversight the commissioners, because I think the commissioners that we have actually been a big stumbling block to the strength of this parliament. This parliament has a lot to do. I mean, we could be able to do laws in this parliament that can be adopted by the representatives that are represented here in our respective countries to make us actually sync and move together with one vision, one voice. Currently, we don't have that. And then we also need to be able to have penalties for those who do not pay. How do we make them pay? How do we make sure that everybody has a buy-in? Because surely there could be countries that have conflicts within, or countries that have instabilities or financially not strong. But this is where the African Union comes in.
Finish.
Sorry, thank you. There should be a buffer fund that could actually bail out some of the countries that are not able to go forward. I believe that one African country being wealthy is not enough for the entire continent. We need all the 54 countries to be actually able to build on their wealth, build on their resources, and we need to end the conflict. We need to silence the guns. And we need to make sure that the exploitation of African countries by our colonizers needs to end. So we need to take certain decisions for Africa, by Africans, not being influenced by the West because we're still dependent on them, on donors. Real independence will come when the African Union is fully funded by the African continent. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Honorable Felix Mpozeri-Niga, Burundi.
Merci, Excellence.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for giving me the floor. I had a few suggestions to make, but those who have spoken before me have already suggested same. But I'd like to, first of all, thank the presenters for their very interesting presentations. But having a look at the figures that were shown to us by Dr. Monique and the comments of His Excellency Moussa Faki saying that there is a decline in Pan-Africanism, and taking note of the figures that have just been given to us concerning the funding of African Union program. I have concerns in terms of implementation of Agenda 2063. This leads to the fact that whether there is advocacy or not, there has to be a strategy for mobilization of funds. And because just saying that we need advocacy without your strategic plan for funds mobilization, that will be a bit complicated. As those who have spoken before me have said, we need to have exchanges, physical meetings to debate all these issues concerning the financing of the Union. Because if we are not independent financially, it will be impossible to arrive at the vision of Agenda 2063. We should have exchanges with the honorable members of the Pan-African Parliament, with the commissioners of the African Union, particularly those in charge of financing, so that we can adopt strategic plans to solve all these issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Next to take the floor is Honorable Jennifer Wibabara, Rwanda.
Thank you, sir. I very much appreciate the presentation of His Excellency, the Chairperson of African Union Commission, and very much happy to have Her Excellency Dr. Monique present to us her very excellent presentation as well. Mine starts with what the Chairperson of African Union Commission said. The vision to unite Africa is very much beneficial to all of us as Africans and as member states. And more than ever before, for this continent to survive, we need this spirit to come up and people to come together. Also, as he requested us to rekindle the Pan-African spirit, I was suggesting that a strategy maybe more than PAP, including PAP members, of people can come up with a team to come up with a mobilization strategy to rally back African leaders to the cause of the Union of Africa, so that to survive as a continent, we need to be together and be together as a commitment of leaders, of member states, and of the African people. So there must be a strategy to it. We can't just sit and see it collapsing and the spirit going back down. Also, that's why I think with them engaged and committed, then we can talk about the financing. And with financing, I think there needs to be measures in place, how people are going to honor their pledges, their contribution on member states. If there are no measures or mechanisms of accountability, of enforcement, and maybe there are no consequences. Of course, we are not going to talk about punitive measures, but some simple measures that can make people honor their pledges. Otherwise, it will seem as if things are not done in a very serious way. As many of the points were raised by former colleagues, MPs talked about it, I would therefore conclude saying that let us first get the people. Let us first let their spirit back to the cause and the reason why. And I think with that, we shall get the money. And with that, shall get the commitment. And this move would involve young people. That will be very good. So that the vision of the founding father and the survival of our continent will be realized. I thank you, sir.
Thank you. When you address this chair, you don't say, sir. You say, Mr. President. The next speaker is Honorable Sophia Jibril Djibouti.
Excusez-moi, Monsieur le Président.
Excuse me, Honorable President. I had asked a question about the industrialization of Africa, not on the two themes that were tackled after that. I'm sorry.
Then you then speak on that topic. Honorable Senior Ahmed, Sahrawi Democratic Republic.
اسمح لي سيد الرئيس، أنا طلبت الكلمة في موضوع حالة حقوق الإنسان وليس.
I would like to speak on the human rights situation, not on those two topics. Thank you.
Lloyd Kasingo, Namibia.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for giving me the floor. I'm just going to comment briefly on the 2 points, namely the decline of Pan-Africanism and the levy. I believe that Agenda 2063 cannot be achieved if all of us here in the future who will govern Africa during 2063 cannot understand Pan-Africanism. I believe that the revival of Pan-Africanism is very important even for us as an African continent to talk of funding ourselves. If we don't have that spirit, we keep on banging to the others, although our continent is very rich. So the revival of Pan-Africanism, the spirit among ourselves who are present in the future, we cannot also strengthen our organs of the AU, our court, our legislative body, PAP, and to ensure that we ratify Malabo Protocol. And all of us, the member state, our head of state, must understand that need. Having said that, the decline of this Pan-Africanism in Namibia, we have also noticed that. In particular, among the youth, they don't understand that. What some of them, not all, they are aiming just to get rich quick. And to ensure that the whole country having a bread, not all of them understand. And the question arises that who will respect a poor person who is sitting on top of the rich underground? Africa as a continent is very, very rich, but its people is poor. Some countries, they manage to have those resources, mines, diamond, but because of mismanagement, the poor become poor. And the outsiders, they are happy with this. We go and study where America, where, but
finish. Another minute. Another minute, you finish.
I talk in my... Yeah, our minds are not free. And henceforth, I would like to propose that as His Excellency, our chair, His Excellency Musa Faki, proposed that Pan-African Parliament are key, we go back home and try in our respective parliament, in our respective government, to come up, to put up structures, in particular aiming at the youth, so that they can understand where does AU come from. Even PAP was brought up by those people who are no more, some of them are here. My president, Semani Wama, is still alive. And they say they need that AU must have a legislative body. So those people, they understand and they have the spirit of Pan-Africanism. And I can quickly say that maybe in the future, anyone who will be a member from Pan-African Parliament must test that really he understands that spirit. Yeah, concerning the levy, as I stated that we are rich, Africa is rich. Africa is rich. Maybe those levies must come up from our resources, our diamond, our oil also. They must pay levy, and the levy just go direct to AU to fund ourselves. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, the President, Your Excellency Faki, and Your Excellency, the Deputy Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kasingo. I'm advised that I share this information, that this morning we have unprecedented high number. Now, numbers of people following live on our platforms. That this debate, maybe because of the chairperson and deputy chairperson, we have thousands, if not millions, who are following this debate. Thank you. And also the interest to debate has increased. I have received extra expressions or registrations, 5 more. Okay, actually received 7. So the next speaker to take the floor is Honorable Kasanji Ngoi Alphonse, DRC.
Merci. Thank you, Mr. President, for giving me the floor. I'd like to congratulate Excellency Musa Faki and Her Excellency Dr. Monique for their 2 speeches. And I noted the issue raised about the legal the legislative powers of the Pan-African Parliament by His Excellency Moussa Faki, but I was a bit disappointed by what Dr. Monique said about the 2% to be levied on imports, which enabled us to move from 6% to 45% from 2016 to 2019. And we have now fallen back to 9%. What are the reasons for that? Why have we fallen back to 9% if the Parliament, which is called upon to intervene so that the states honor their obligations? What I have observed is that in many sub-regional organizations, they have managed to mobilize resources to fund their budget. But unfortunately, at the African Union, we have a tendency to turn towards foreign nations. And many of the conflicts that we have on the continent are caused by outside forces. And I would like to propose to our parliament the following. We should have a mission. The parliament must constitute a delegate made up of MPs from various countries. And this delegation will visit countries that have not paid their contributions to raise awareness on the importance to mobilize our own resources. Because if we continue to turn to foreign countries, if they fund us, then we will have to face more conflicts, which will never end. And my wish is that we formed that delegation. I know it might cost a lot of money and that the resources are quite constrained at the Pan-African Parliament, but it would be great for that group of people, that delegation, to visit countries that have not honored their obligations so that they can raise awareness in those countries. Thank you.
Thank you. The next, the floor will be Honorable John Bond Bideri of Rwanda.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for giving me this opportunity to speak. I would like, first of all, to thank His Excellency Moussa Faki and Your Excellency Monique Nsanzabaganwa for their excellent presentations. I want to begin by, first of all, thanking the leaders of this continent for having come up with a program for resource mobilization as outlined in the presentations, both in Johannesburg and in Kigali. I think that's a very positive step towards the realization of having independence in terms of resources for the continent. I do agree that Africa indeed deserves to have financial independence in order for it to drive the Agenda 2063. However, looking at or listening to the presentation, in my view, I think that very minimal funding for programs, in particular, would certainly affect the achievement of this vision. And therefore, I do agree entirely with the proposal by the deputy chairperson that countries must actually, or rather the parliamentarians, should be able to make an effort to advocate within their member countries so that the commitments that the countries agreed towards the realization of resource mobilization for the continent are achieved. So I support that, and I think the proposal from our colleague from DRC makes a lot of sense towards this. I do know that my country, Rwanda, has actually committed, since 2017, has imposed this level of 0.2% towards the mobilization of resources for the African Union, and it is working very well. And therefore, on this note, I would also want to find out from Her Excellency Monique Nsanzabaganwa what are actually the challenges that countries have in terms of mobilizing these resources, in terms of raising the resources as agreed in Johannesburg and in Kigali. If she can kindly share with us those challenges, that might also help us to take the step towards going to our countries to mobilize or to advocate for the mobilization of these resources. I thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you, Honorable Bideri. Next, take the floor is Honorable Kamau Margaret, Professor from Kenya.
Thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity. May I start by thanking the chairperson and the deputy chairperson of the African Union Commission for their good presentations. And I want to only make two brief comments. One, I want to agree with their proposal on the roles of the PAP. It is a bit surprising for those of us who arrived last year that we have not had a very strong working relationship between the AU Commission and the PAP, because this is what would have unlocked a lot of things. Some of the things we are talking about today should not have been here if there was a close relationship between the African Union Commission and the PAP, because the goal is one. I agree that one of the key roles of the Pan-African Parliament is that of monitoring and accountability, as explained by Deputy Chairperson Monique. Also, she mentioned that we must be the bridge between the AU and the partner states. That I also agree. But for us to be able to do that, we must be very clear about one thing, that parliaments, whether it's in PAP or in the national parliaments, work on transparency and accountability as the driver even of budgeting. How, therefore, do we persuade and advocate for better budgets if we are not able to discuss accountability and transparency of the AU here today? That they go back and give us proposals on how to implement this accountability and transparency, which must start from the budget process. Because we need to know where the money is going, because you cannot monitor something that you do not know. We can only monitor expenditure of the African Union when we know and have approved that budget. It is this House that we must allow to scrutinize and to approve the budget. After all, what are we hiding? We are all in the same family, the AUC, the other arms of the African Union, and this Parliament. Let us be open to one another. Let's agree that the driver should be accountable. And if we agree, 1 minute.
Yes, 1 minute.
Thank you, Chair. It is very, very important that we start from the budgeting, the spending, and for us to be to monitor anything that is going on. Otherwise, Mr. President, the Pan-Africanism cannot be dying when we are here. It should be, we should be the ones encouraging. But those who are encouraging are not very conscious of what else is going on in this, in the other arms. And I therefore would like to suggest that for us, we must have an active relationship between the Pan-African Parliament and the other arms. We even dared in our committee when I was giving the report that we want to have a huge conference of all the arms and we agree on how we are working. Because unless we streamline this House, we are not going to be able to do much. With those, I really thank them for the good speeches, but we must agree on how to implement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. Next, take the floor is Honorable Costa Adalberto.
Muito obrigado, Sua Excelência, Sr. Presidente.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
Eu começo por saudar Sua Excelência, o Presidente da Comissão, Moussa Faki, também a doutora Monique, pelas intervenções feitas. Eu gostava de centrar a minha intervenção nas questões ligadas...
I'd like... Is it okay? Is it okay? Okay. Yes, you can repeat, please. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the Dr. Monique and also the chairperson of the Moussa Faki for your presentation. And I'd like to address my intervention related to the peace and security issues and development which are related, as well as also the economic issues. I'd like to start by call upon this Parliament to pronounce about the hard situation taking place in Mozambique today. Mozambique, after the electoral process, is facing a huge instability and a great risk. His Excellency Moussa Faki spoke appealing for the peace maintenance. And so we are talking about this, and this is how they represent the voice of people, the sovereignty of the people. It is not good that the Pan-African Parliament be far from a conflict that is taking place nearby. And call upon all the intervention of all its members for not going to a mere conflict or for an instability, and also to put an end to the Violence Act, particularly or violation against the populations. I will conclude by a case which is a reality in our continent. Our young population, which is the majority in terms of the population in the continent, is a little bit frustrated with the institutions when the democratic rights are not ensured. And most of these youth, they go for the eradication position. So it's important that we cannot, we avoid this. And we need to intervene is to violate the human right, respect, the democratic respect for the human, and also for the act to have a transparent election, a transparent and democratic elections, so that we avoid conflicts, so that we may make a good management of the resources and have a better continent. So this is my intervention. Please, let's help Mozambique to solve the violence in case that is facing today. Thank you very much.
Kenya.
Thank you, Mr. President. First and foremost, I want to thank the presenters, the chairman, Moussa Faki, and the deputy, Dr. Monique. That was a good presentation. I don't want to say much. I just want to support the colleagues who have talked here, because it's really worrying to hear that African Union, they are also going through challenges to raise funds for Africa. And I'm asking myself, if African Union is not able to raise funds, and here in Pan-African Parliament, we are always saying that we are not able to operate because we don't have funds, what are we going to do? And what I would like to tell you, the deputy, I think it's important to work with Pan-African Parliament because we are member of Parliament. And the challenges you are talking about, like the member state not contributing, and also the resource mobilization, us as members of Parliament are the only members who can help you to do that. But now if you sideline us, because most of the time we are not even able to operate, like me, I'm in Eastern Caucasus, and we are not even able to go for a single mission because we don't have money. And saying that we are here to raise voice for Africans, I don't know what we are going to do. Now here, you've told us that you want us to advocate for the money. And I'm asking myself, how am I going to advocate for money? And yet, AU is not ready to be accountable. Because you see, I have heard from the chairman has said that now Pan-African Parliament has matured to be a full legislative and oversight house. Why can't you allow us to do that? Because now when we do that, we'll be able to go and talk to our country, talk to our members, our presidents, and they'll be able now to give money to the African Union. I can also thank you because you said you come with a program of resource mobilization. That is a brilliant idea. However, let's account for this money, monitoring and evaluation. The commissioners should be accountable. They should not dictate to us. We are members of parliament and we are elected, and that is why we are here. And we are ready to work with you and make sure that the Africa is moving to the next level. All the same, let's work together. I urge you to work closely with us because we are all here to present hope and we are here to represent hope and vision of Africa. Thank you very much and all the best. God bless.
Asante.
Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you very much, Honorable President. We thank both speakers, His Excellency Faki and Dr. Monique, for telling us today what is actually happening at the African Union. And I think today, Honorable Speaker, it is very evident that as a union, we must look at ourselves from all angles. I will start with the decline in the Pan-Africanism in the continent here. But then the question is, what is the AU doing to correct that? Honorable Speaker, we are here speaking in a language that we do not own. And we've been talking about it for a long time. In fact, we've been segregated by Francophone, Anglophone, Arabophone, Lusophone, everything for something we do not own. How can we promote Pan-Africanism if the language that we speak in this parliament or at the level of the AU does not even belong to us? Do you expect Pan-Africanism to be promoted? No. We must develop our own language. And I've said this since 2017. Let's develop our own language and nurture that in our curriculum in our schools. And in the next 10, 15 years, anywhere you go, Eswatini, Kenya, Gambia, Burundi, you speak the language, somebody's going to talk to you. Not this English language, not this French language, that doesn't do anything else but to divide this continent. We must think twice, and we must take a look at our strategies as a union. I am not surprised by the decline. Because Africa is a very young population. But we must instill that Pan-Africanism in us. We must instill that mentality in us. And that's going to change our thinking. We must think Africa. And until we do that, promote our culture, stop this language that divides us, we will not go anywhere. And I'm glad that the chairman actually has mentioned that. And personally, I'm not even surprised. We must do better for the African population. Honorable Speaker, to talk about the financial aspect of it, I mean, it's quite evident. We here as members of parliament, we are the one that approve budgets in our countries. We are the one that approve money that goes to the AU. We are the one that approve budgets to do all development in our own countries. But at the end of the year, financial year, the parliament is given an audit. How have you used that money? I've been here for 7 good years, Honorable Speaker, as a member of this parliament. I've never seen the AU audit. I've never seen that. Here. Even the budget of the African Union that we actually fund, we have not seen it. So how do you expect us as members of parliament to help promote participation by the African people to ensure that we contribute? Have a minute, please. Yes, how can you expect us as members of parliament to help promote the funding of the AU when money is given, we do not know when the money is spent. We do not know where is it. Where is it? I mean, we must be factual here, and we must be truthful. Tell us where the money is going, and we will go back to our own countries and tell them to pay for the AU because the AU is meant for the African population. But if you do not know where the money is going, it'll be very difficult, doctor, to tell my country, the Gambia, to contribute. The last time I've checked with my Minister of Finance, he told me that Gambia is up to date until August, because I wanted to know exactly what's happening. But how about other countries? If you want them to pay, please bring an audited report of the AU in the parliament here, we will debate it. Bring the budget of the AU, we will debate it. We know exactly where the African money is going. Thank you very much.
I think this is the last name on the list.
Your Excellency,
Honorable Barakat.
Your Excellency, I submitted my name.
I haven't seen it so far, but let me take note. That is Honorable Suleiman. Is it? Yes. All right. So Honorable Barakat, proceed.
Bonjour.
Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, Mr. Vice President. I would like to thank the chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Moussa Faki, as well as Deputy Chairperson Dr. Monique. We know that the Pan-African Parliament does not have legislative powers, and we believe that the President and the Vice President who are present with us. I believe that the chairperson and the vice chairperson who are with us can advocate for the ratification of the Malabo Protocol on the Pan-African Parliament. The Pan-African Parliament tries to do its part in terms of advocacy. However, as the African Union Commission, what is being done in that regard, because this must be a collective effort. And while awaiting its legislative powers, the Pan-African Parliament must participate in the implementation of policies and programs on the continent. But over the past few years, we have seen that even the budget of the various organs of the African Union has not been transmitted to the Pan-African Parliament. I think the last element that I have in mind is recently in March, and the various departments of the African Union do not collaborate with the Pan-African Parliament committees or the relevant committees. So how do we then fix the situation so that the Pan-African Parliament can exercise its oversight function? And in addition, the Pan-African Parliament must be regularly informed on the reforms processes going on at the African Union. And one example of such reform is the financial independence of the African Union. I will stop there. Thank you.
I think the actual last is the Vice President, Honorable Jida.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll just seize this opportunity to congratulate Excellencies Moussa Faki Mahamat for detailing the expectations of the Pan-African Parliament with regards to funding, with regards to our role and the operation of the Pan-African Parliament, as well as the strategic plan that we have just submitted to the August members of the Pan-African Parliament. And so I think that Moussa Faki considered some strategic plan. And I also want to congratulate the Vice President, Dr. Monique, who also spoke to us on the funding of the Pan-African Parliament, and also detailed us, which went into details on that. And so people spoke a lot more about the funding and where the funding of the 2% comes from. What is it based on? People really were not edified on that. And so, Madam, could you please explain to us 2%? Just like in Chad, we have 2% tax on imports, for example. And so if all African countries deduct 2% tax on all imports, and we could use that to fund the African Union. And so they could take that on imports of everything that African business people bring in. And because we shouldn't just be losing when we do commercial transactions. And so when this money is collected, also it must be turned into the African Union for its operations. And so if there are certain heads of state who are not doing it, we should bring it to the Executive Council. And if there is a country that has not met its commitments or that has not committed to doing this, why not suspend those countries? That is where we need to suspend the 2%. If the 2% is not covering expenses, we would need, obviously, partners to increase the kind of liquidity that we require. In our Central African Economic Community, we have about 4% for community integration. And also we have 1%, which is community integration tax. So that is 5%. And so 2% of that can go to the African Union. And then at the level of our regional economic community, we can use it for our zone as well as a 0.5% eventually, which may be used to increase the allocation of the African Union. Thank you very much. Those are my inputs. And I think the African Union should consider that so that we impose, instead of relying on partners to impose things on us. I thank you, Mr. President.
Received another or two more requests to take the floor. I'm aware the chairperson wants to also be excused very soon. So I request that those who take the floor now, having requested late, should also be very, very brief. Honorable Joly. Jacques Diarassi.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much, Honorable President, for giving me the floor. I'm going to be very brief, even if the question is a very important and existential one for our institution, the Parliament, as well as for the entirety of the political institutions of the African Union. I would like to thank His Excellency Honorable Faki, President of the Commission, as well as the Vice President in charge of Finance, the Vice Chair of Finance. Honorable President, while listening to Honorable Faki and Madam raising these issues, I would like to tell you that in our country, which had inscribed in its constitution in Article 215, the opportunity for our country in Article 217 to conclude treaties to abandon part of its sovereignty to the African Union. This clause is strongly contested due to the results of the African Union following its transformation from the Organization of African Unity. The philosophy of the African Union, especially with regards to the youth, is really is in question. Why, Honorable President? Honorable President, Agenda 2063, I believe, just like you, that in 2063 that we would all be very far. We would have gone very far. Honorable President, in terms of the integration from 34 states down to 6 states, when we look at the first step, it has to be the regional economic communities. If we look at the only case of the Central African region, the assessment is very negative. It's a zone, a region rather, which where there is a lot of conflict, interstate conflict, and so on. There is a clear problem, in my opinion. The African Union needs to invite us for a reflection. Because if we look at the African Union, which is really based on the model of the European Union, shouldn't we start integration which is based on the economy and free movement of people? Because our initial vision, the vision of Monrovia, really, it was an economic integration, because we are too much in theoretical discussions and debates rather than actions. Young Africans
DRC.
Honorable President, thank you for giving me the floor. I had already submitted my question and it got lost in the process. I would like to congratulate Honorable Ma'am and Honorable Musa Faki Mohammed for their presentation, and also for raising the issue of Pan-Africanism and the rise in conflicts in Africa. This situation, as you know, is linked, in my opinion, to the desire of states to just make voluntary contributions. But the questions that we want to ask is, how do we transform that into obligations? And that should be really motivated by pressure from the African people. And if we, to achieve this, the Pan-African Parliament really played a role of a period, a catalyzer, and I believe that this shortfall in contribution really is linked to our policy positions and ideological positions, and also the will of our people. And so it is PAP, which is in contact with the people to approve, to change the situation. So without a budget, how can PAP really be close to the people? How can PAP promote African policies to the African people? Like some have just said here, we, the members of PAP, how are we going to tell people if we do not have the spaces to speak directly to them or to speak directly to the African Union Commission? And so we need to be conscious that those who fund us are those who dictate how we should operate. And so, like some said here today, Pan-Africanism means ending all wars. And who supports these wars? It is foreign countries, and we all know that. And all that we spend to fund wars should be spent rolling out the policies of the African Union. I would like to finally conclude by asking this question to Honorable Musa Faki Mohammed. How do we change this situation? Because we are those who represent the people, and so we should work together. And often you are not listening to us, and so we need to work in collaboration. And I invite the executive to increase dialogue with the Pan-African Parliament so that we really achieve the objectives that are honest and really Pan-African.
I think the last contribution from Honorable Vice President Dr. Gayo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Chairperson of African Union, Mr. Moussa Faki, and the Deputy Chairperson, Her Excellency Monique, Dr. Monique. Your Excellency, Dr. Monique, you asked the Pan-African Parliament to fund itself, to be self-sufficient. At the same time, you can witness that Pan-African Parliament raised around $3.5 million, and we came to your office, asked how to utilize that money. Of course, positively you tried to assist us. You went through all the documents and the rules of financial rules of African Union. Finally, you found that it's not possible to Pan-African Parliament to use that money. It should come to the same basket to African Union so that it can be maybe redistributed to organs of the African Union. In this way, how can Pan-African Parliament finance itself and can be self-sufficient, Your Excellency? Secondly, regarding the budget hearing, I know during Madam Zuma, when she was the chairperson of African Union Commission, since 2010, we were here, we debated on the budget of the Union, and we contributed. But later on, we heard the Legal Council of African Union advised that since Pan-African Parliament doesn't have legislative power, they cannot debate on the budget, which was very wrong, Your Excellency, very wrong. Our consultative role, our advisory role, allow us to debate on that budget of the Union. Given that the budget is a budget of the taxpayers needs transparency and accountability, it should come to the representatives of the people. So my question now, Your Excellency, can you advise your successors at least to come to Pan-African Parliament and table the budget to the Parliament to debate? I thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you. I think we've come to the, what I may call the end.
Excellency, you are forgetting about me.
Oh, by the way, you are a late comer, please do it under 3 minutes.
Yes, thank you, Your Excellency. My intervention will be very short, and I would like to thank the chairperson of AUC and his deputy. I want to speak on the decline of Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism will be simply declined because the leaders of the continent are not Pan-Africanist oriented. Most of the leaders who are heads of states, they have no commitment to Pan-Africanism. So it will be very difficult to sell the idea to the grassroots. Your Excellency, the diaspora, I want to ask the chairperson of AUC, the diaspora has been recognized as the 6th region of AU. Why is it that they are not still represented in this house? And it's high time we recognize these people as the members of this continent. One reason of the order, they were taken from us, which nobody appreciated. History will never forgive anybody who contributed to the taking of our own siblings who are elsewhere. Now they want to come home and be part of us. So they need to be reintegrated. And these are the people who can make this continent to move because they have the expertise, they have the resource, they have the energy. So Africa can be only for Africans, both at home and those in diaspora. So time has come to fulfill the prophecy made by Marcus Messiah Garvey, that we must return to our homeland, that is Africa. Africa for Africans. Thank you.
Thank you. We have how many minutes before 1? I was about quarter to, about 15, 14 minutes. The deputy chairperson will take about 10 minutes or more. I just want to say to the deputy chairperson, Your Excellency, this House in September made a proposal that since one of our functions as PAP is to promote deepen democracy on the continent and ensure a culture of democracy. I'm actually quoting from the rules on the protocol. Made a proposal that why don't we have the candidates for the AUC chairmanship of those who are aspiring to be chair of the African Commission to come to PAP at one of the sittings before the elections, to come and present here. We go live, and then the continent can see who these people are and of what capacity. Can you relay that to the chairperson and say, can we be given an opportunity to invite these people to PAP before February at any sitting so that, they speak to the continent and the citizens. Then the other is the issue of violations of the protocol by the AU or AUC itself. We are aware that in the case of PAP, when there is only some perception of violation of protocol, we hear very loud voices in Addis about PAP violating this and that. But for example, the union is violating Article 10 of the Pan-African Parliament, which says the Pan-African parliamentarians shall be paid an allowance to meet their expenses in the discharge of their duties. Since 2019, there's been no allowance paid to members of PAP. And some exercise was undertaken in Addis, where PAP was excluded in violation of Article 10 of the protocol establishing Pan-African Parliament. I know this has been mentioned, but I want to mention that it's actually Article 11(2) under functions and powers of the Pan-African Parliament. It says one of the functions and powers is to discuss the budget of PAP and the budget of the AU and make recommendations thereon prior to its approval by the Assembly. It's in the protocol. But the AU is ignoring this. And again, these are violations. So when the violations are done in Addis, they are inconsequential. Then the protocol says, under Article 11, again, functions and powers, it says PAP can request officials of the AU and other organs to attend its sessions, produce documents, or assist in the discharge of their duties. Currently, commissioners generally 80% or 90% of the requests, nobody comes to PAP. Maybe I'll stop here and I can now give you the opportunity to respond to issues raised during the debate. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and Your Excellencies, honorable members of PAP. Your Excellency, yours included, we have 22 interventions. And some came back to similar topics, and you will just bear with me if maybe by addressing one member of parliament, I may also have addressed some of the issues raised by the others. But I have taken extensive notes of your comments, your questions, your wise observations, and actually even your demanding accountability, including your last question, Chair, Mr. President, on what if also the African Union Commission and other organs also violate the protocol on PAP. Let me, by the way, start by that and really confess that we are here on a learning curve. Like the chairperson mentioned, it has been so unfortunate that in my term, 4 years, part of it or majority part of it was in a situation where we couldn't really have this very vital and very fulfilling exchange with members of the PAP. But that is behind us. And we thank God that we have overcome, like Chairperson has mentioned, and we are moving forward. We will make sure, for sure, that we keep improving. That, by the way, includes also our notes, our handover notes to the incoming commission. I will come back to it later, but I wish we could have started indeed these engagements earlier because they are really full of substance, and also it's mandatory and statutory to do so. Let me also comment or try to answer to some of the concerns about finance and the state of contributions. Generally, several members have raised this. I will maybe elaborate more to tell you that member states' contributions, or the 55, have been really improved. We are seeing that 80% of contributions due are paid on time within the same fiscal year, although some are not paid in January. We should actually have payment in January so that our budget running from January to December, we don't struggle in the first month of the year. But unfortunately, we find that sometimes member states rush to pay just the minimum that is required not to be sanctioned. We have a sanctions regime that apply to member states that delay to pay their contributions, and that is helping. But we mostly see, like you see in the detailed report, most payments are done towards summit of February, and also summit media coordination of July, but most of the time not in full even, just what it needs to not get the country into sanctions. But we have seen that improvement over the last 5 years from 68% to 88%. We have arrears today standing at $53 million. And to tell you how also this situation can be challenging, 85% of it is just from one country, which country is unfortunately under difficult times and also under sanctions in addition. Countries that have adopted the 0.2, we have actually 3 regions where we have experience: the Western Africa region, the Eastern Africa region, and the Central Africa region, but not all of the countries. Like in Western Africa, we have 9 countries that have adopted this decision. These are Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Sierra Leone, Gambia, Benin, Guinea, Mali, and Togo. In East, we have 4, Kenya, Rwanda, Sudan, and Djibouti. In Central, we have 4 again, Congo, Cameroon, Gabon, and Chad. But in the Southern region, Northern region, we don't have experience of 0.2% levy being domesticated. And we really still need to push for the 38 total member states that have not yet domesticated. And I'll come back to this as to reasons as to why, because some members have also asked that question, why we are seeing a low uptake of this 0.2% levy. Challenges have been many. There is, to start with, a particular country that has put reservation from the day-go, but for the remaining others, challenges have been cited as follows. For a group of countries like the island countries, who depend on tourism, have tax regimes that are not even taxing imports and whatever, they have put a challenge that this is not even practical, because the 0.2% of what they will collect would be meaningful anyway. So maybe a reflection needed to see is there be another alternative of a base to levy the 0.2%, which is not necessarily the eligible imports. That is one group country, including countries like Mauritius, for instance. Then we have had another category of countries that cite the challenges with the WTO, World Trade Organization, and the incompatibility of this instrument with the GATT provisions, which is a challenge, but also which is a challenge that can be overcome, because now we have a free trade area, FCFTA, and under an FTA, having a regional trade agreement, you can always have a way of not being bound. But maybe some issues also concern some bilateral trade agreements that these countries might be having with other countries, which will invoke then the most favored nation clause and so on and so forth. So that has been another category of challenges, really that are related to WTO, World Trade Organization's rules. But we have also seen other categories of challenges, namely technical issues. Countries, some countries, like South Africa, for instance, they have cited that, this provision is not in line with their constitution, that they are not allowed to have such an instrument. So legal issues, technical complications or complexities have been also cited. We have seen also countries that, by the way, have domesticated, but in the implementation, they are even being challenged. And sometimes they even don't pay in full or in arrears, yet they have domesticated this instrument. Countries like, for instance, Chad and others, that sometimes it can be also technical issues of managing an escrow account, creating a linkage between the tax authorities and the central bank, where the money should be collected into an account, and then the remitting channels and so on and so forth. So there is a number of situations we have analyzed and studied, which indeed, as a strategy, we will go case by case, engaging particular authorities. There is also loss of, I would say, institutional memory, and we need really to bring this decision on the table of the current administrations in the countries, and involve also the regulators, especially the customs and the central banks, and the parliaments, so that really this engagement is deepened. We have been reaching out to regional economic communities like ECOWAS, like ECAS. We are planning to go there, ESC, to see how, to the point of one member who mentioned ECAS. I'll get to that later, but let me mention it now while I'm on that 0.2% heavy issue. That actually, ECOWAS, they have a practice of levying. ECAS, they have a practice of levying. Why don't we just top on it? That is 0.2% that should accrue to the African Union. Technically, it's feasible. So we are really bringing this aggressively on the table. We are engaging with the ministers of finance as much as possible, but we need, and like one member you mentioned or more, the PAP is so critical and instrumental in really winning this battle of engagement, and also of seeing to the specific details of what it means for a particular jurisdiction to domesticate this and to implement it. And if there are any variants to it that can achieve the same purpose, then let also that be done. So that's for the 0.2% levy. That's what is going on. Now, while I'm still on the issue of finance, we have a sanctions regime that is working, that has categories, layers of gravity, like when you are still in arrears, maybe delayed by 6 months, then by 12 months, then by more, your sanctions keep increasing, and that sanction regime on countries is really helping, but some countries just can't afford not to be sanctioned because of circumstances, unfortunately. Then, in the interest of time, let me rush to the questions around accountability, because that is another theme that you rightly so raised. On this theme of accountability, let me start by saying that indeed, as African Union, in its organs, including the policy organs like the Executive Council and the Assembly, and then other organs like the PRC and the Parliament and others, we are all in this issue of really making the African Union project work. And in addition to really that Pan-Africanist spirit, which we should continue emphasize across, including even across the staff of the Union, and also the ambassadors, permanent representatives here in Addis, and everywhere. That's really something that we need to continue working on. But there is also a reality we need to know. This, your commission, in matters of deciding on this budget and budget allocations and appropriations, its powers are limited. We've had over the couple of years to engage with PAP to try and advocate for it. Luckily, we managed to get a supplementary budget, but it's always a tug of war. And the challenges are systemic. They are systemic in a way that, to start with, of course, member states are at the core of everything, because they are the ones who would decide what to do, how much to allocate, and which instruments to ratify, what decisions of reform to implement, and it always comes back to our member states, who are, in other words, you as members of Parliament, being part of that community called member states. So within each member state, again, PAP is very, very important to help really this whole system work. And accountability also checked within the AU and also within the country on how member states' responsibilities also can be working towards really making this union work. The issues of budget, according to the financial rules we have today, unfortunately, we don't have yet that legislative role in PAP. But to your point, President, even consultative, that one, at least in my term, which is now coming to an end after 4 years, we haven't done that. And it's unfortunate that that has not been done. And that a legal opinion was mentioned that was kind of advising against, and also the whole process being not even in the hands of the commission. I remember there was a time I was fighting with the members of the PRC, saying, me as the deputy chairperson, I've been voted by the heads of state just to be accountable on issues of finance. How can not be a DCP who is technically like a finance minister for the union is not presenting to the executive council, and then the submission on budget goes through the PRs, and they are the ones who are presenting to the executive council. I raised that anomaly, and I don't know how many attacks I got in terms of, this is it. That's how we've been doing it. We should keep doing this. So it's really a challenge that we have, maybe taking the opportunity of the reform to really streamline and clarify that really some of these roles and the segregation of duties and accountability, really, it's very, very important that we look at these issues, and the role of Parliament and on demanding accountability and on monitoring, as I mentioned in the key roles, really being upheld at whatever cost that there is no cost even in my view. So it's something that we are going to pursue. We are working with the champion on reforms. To some of the ideas that we have in mind are really to make sure that this is rehabilitated, because it will bring sanity to the system and also accountability to the citizens. On another topic that has been raised on support to PAP, I think, like Chairperson mentioned, really we've always advocated for our oversight institutions to be adequately provided so that we don't be seen as we are stifling their role. Unfortunately, we have a challenge whereby member states have capped the budget, member states' contributions to only $200 million for almost the last 3 years or so. My first year was 205, then it reduced to 203, and then now to 200, period. And this is the budget you have to run the union. Operations, yes, we cover, but then programs, it remains with 9% for next year. Just because of that, even the 0.2% levy is not going to help if we don't deal with this issue of capping, because the 0.2% levy, in its design, it had been simulated to collect $1.2 billion every year across the union, and that was in 2016. Which means even today it could even be more because our economies have grown. But the rationing is actually defeating the whole purpose. Even if we domesticate it, the 17 countries that have domesticated this instrument, they are only paying to the tune of what is assessed proportionately to those 200 millions. They cannot pay more. But they're using the remaining for other needs. They can use it for whatever they want, as long as they have paid what is due to the union. So we need to unlock this capping, and which was imposed because of the challenges of COVID-19, but we need to sincerely revisit it. I don't see how we are going to continue to survive on $200 million budget when you have a number of programs to implement, including supporting the PAP, that's why you're not getting enough in terms of money you need to do the programs. And how are we going to domesticate Agenda 2063? How are you going to sensitize and popularize it? How are we going to continue monitoring that countries are actually implementing and are reporting? It's going to be difficult. And then we are, yes, at the G20, but then we'll keep begging. And it will also defeat the purpose of even claiming the platform at the global scene. So that's where the chairperson actually was really kind of lamenting that situation, because it's so dire, and we need to do something about it collectively. So yes, the Commission, as the executive arm, we are responsible, we are accountable to the tune of what we have in hands to manage, but then what we have in hands might not be enough. We are struggling in terms of reform, we are struggling in terms of staffing, we are struggling in terms of IT platforms and whatever, and these are limiting our potential to deliver as an organization. On the other side, we are also working on our internal weaknesses, as I mentioned, because we still have also issues of limited capacity of implementation. Sometimes we have audit issues here and there. The audit, we have a board of external auditors, which is member states. On that board of external auditors, there are offices of the auditors general in each country. There is a formula of countries coming to that board every number of years, and then they audit us. Luckily, we have been having clean audit reports on our financial reports, but with really a number of audit findings, especially in terms of some of the compliance areas, but fiduciary, we have had unqualified reports for all the period I've been around here, which at least testifies to the good stewardship of the money. But the value for money, we still have an issue, which needs everyone in the checks and balance, including the parliament, PAP, to also chip in and try and really make everyone accountable, PAP also included as an organ. I liked the idea of one honorable. Vous avez proposé une idée.
You have suggested a new idea, that is to see how through the sports we could take some levy in order to support the contributions to the union. I fully agree. The speaker switched to English.
To see, in addition to the 0.2%, if it's struggling, could there be any other means? And I hope that one day we'll get there. There was another issue that was raised. Especially, I must respond to this from the honorable from Kenya, because you asked it. You posed this question really, we genuinely challenging us as a commission, that you don't see actually us come to account. We don't even show up. And also many other members, including the VP, Gayo, you mentioned this. I would start by saying that, and it's repeating myself, that we are just getting started on consolidating this relationship with PAP. At least for the a number of engagements we have had personally, be it on Agenda 2063, be it on budget issues, and now, which is the first, I think, plenary I'm having like this, it's very, very important to strengthen this. And like I said, let's leave the history behind us. And now that we are really having a full house, properly now governed, we are going to demand this accountability. Unfortunately, I couldn't come to attend in person because of other assignments I was given here in Addis. But thank God we have these virtual means that are also allowing us to be fully engaging with you, even at a distance. But by no means this is not a statement that PAP is not important. To the contrary, if there is a partner I've been having in my function, is indeed PAP. On this idea of debate, for the new candidates for the new commission, I think it's a brilliant idea, in my view. There is normally in the procedure that was approved by an assembly a long time ago, a provision for a debate. And this debate historically has been conducted by an anchor journalist, and then it's a broadcast live, and we are planning for it, but using that formula. Unfortunately, we didn't have that idea of also members coming to PAP, but I don't see why, if PAP invites or wants to hear out from them, then that should not be done. But we were working on that other debate, that is a public debate, which, of course, I'm going to feed back to the commission chairperson and see if there is a way of also facilitating that engagement at PAP. There has been the question from the MP Sarawi on the non-in-person presentation. I have addressed it. Another one on the PAP independence and oversight. Let me say, of course, the chairperson mentioned it, that we really look forward to seeing our PAP fully embraced and the ratification of Malabo Protocol. Again, of course, there is an extent to which the chairperson, deputy chairperson can go in mobilizing all the member states to ratify this protocol. But ratification sits in the national parliaments. And again, here, that's where we rely on PAP really to unlock this protocol. Because once we have it, it will really cure a lot of challenges that we have mentioned. I mentioned issues on the sanctions. I also addressed the issue about PAP budget and resources. I continue to confirm that we need a strong partnership with PAP, and that's also something that we are going to put in our handover notes to our next commission, and continue to check and encourage, and it's not actually encourage, because we have to respond when you call us to come and present, because otherwise how can you do monitoring and accountability? I agree with all of you. I see Honorable Jennifer and others who stressed that really we need to revive this Pan-Africanist spirit if we are even to address the issue of finance, because we have all it takes. And I keep saying that Africa is a powerhouse of solutions. Unfortunately, we are the last to know it, or to realize, or to be willing to harness that. I feel bad when I sit here and see how every one of our partners wants to have a part of us. But I wonder if it's always for good reasons, but we must come together. I don't see other way we are going to get it. Then, is there any other issue I haven't touched? The capping of the program to 200 million budget every year That's the main reason we are seeing the program budget decline. Because once you have a cap, and then you have all the operational costs increasing because we are creating new institutions and we are having staff, they are increasing in grads, we have even reformed. So it's like now almost hitting the cap. And only 9% is remaining for programs and 0% for peace support operations. So if we don't lift this cap, then we are going to even have like 0 to programs if we don't be careful. So that's what we are saying, that we need really to elevate this advocacy within our member states. On the 0.2, I tackled the challenges that we face. On the role of PAP, that's from another honorable my sister from Kenya. We really, on issues of transparency and accountability, I think that's I have already tackled it, agreeing that really we owe this. What I must confess is that even though we don't have yet the ratification of Malabo Protocol, nothing should prevent us from, at least on consultative and advisory basis, doing it. So that's what we are going to start with the framework, budget framework paper for 2026, which is going to be the foundational document for budget 2026, which we are actually starting to work on. So it will be ultimately going to be approved in July 2025. I won't be there, hopefully, eventually, but the process is starting now while I'm sitting here. And I promise that we are going to engage on the process of 2026 budget. Then on there is Honorable Costa who raised, advocated for the situation in Mozambique. I'm sure that our team in PAP's Department of Political Affairs and Peace and Security, they are on it, I'm sure. On Honorable Washila, I wish to really suggest that if you thought that you have sidelined the PAP, please don't, because the challenges, the budgetary challenges PAP has faced, your bureau, your president knows so well that these are challenges felt everywhere, across the organs, across the agencies. And we've really fought the fight of having PAP at least have the minimum means to survive, which I'm glad that we managed finally to have a supplementary budget, which was not an easy thing to do. But because of your efforts, I was seeing how your bureau members were lobbying during Accra media coordination meetings. You did a good job, and together we have really made a point to member states approving a supplementary budget, which is even allowing this sitting. So it's not the issue of sidelining, but it's just the issue of the cake that is really being this small, and everyone is kind of really having challenges in terms of our budget. So know that, rest assured that you have an advocate within the structure of budget approvals at any given time. And we will continue to do so. Yes, the Honorable from Gambia, the audit reports, you're right. I haven't seen any audit report being presented. Yet we have these audits. By the way, we even have issues of being over-audited to the point that it's even creating the impression that, there are recurring issues just because also audit function needs to be put in order. As a matter of fact, in Accra in July this year, the chairperson, feeling that member states think that maybe there is something going wrong with us utilizing their money, requested that he's going to present the status on audit implementation. Because looking at what we have in terms of audits, the improvements that have gone in place, and the perception that is still out there in the statements of our ambassadors here and our ministers, sometimes you feel like there is the need to make what is like mise au point on the situation. What is the real situation? What are the real issues? Because some of the issues that are even recurring are issues that demand that member states do A, B, C, D, because it has been decided, but then the implementation has not followed, and then creating challenges. This we have seen in terms of reforms implementation, for instance, in terms of challenges of understaffing that are also creating difficulties when you have to implement and to also ensure that you have compliance throughout. But indeed, there is a point in also why we are considering budget consultations, also audit reports. I don't see why the Board of External Auditors cannot be also someone to come and present what they have seen on the different arms of the union in terms of this. So we'll suggest that be, and we'll collaborate to schedule that in due course. C'est qui, c'est l'honorable?
I think it's Honorable Barakati. You have wished that that members of PAP get more information on the process of reform. I do fully agree with you. And here I think that in cooperation with the head of the reform unit, Professor Moboko, and also the chair of the Bureau, the Office of the Champion, we will see to it that you be consulted, or that the consultations carry on, since they have already started. The speaker is switching to English. The Honorable Vice President, I think that I have already responded to your question as concerns the 0.2% of levy. English.
Je suis tout à fait d'accord avec vous.
I do fully agree with you as concerns the idea that the idea of the unity and the African Union, we should move forward and also see to it that this be a union of peoples. Integration, economic integration is something which is essential, and I think that with the AFCFTA we are on the right path. And on economic issues, unfortunately, we have registered some delay as concerns financial institutions, which we wanted. We will have a ministerial meeting, which we call STC, and of ministers of finance, development, and planning, and other sectors in order to see how to move forward on this point. This meeting will take place in Algeria during November, and I think that we will keep moving forward on this issue of economic integration.
3.5 million raised by PAP. So the issue here is, and thank you, Vice President Gayo, for raising this. This is the issue of rules. You know very well as members of parliament in your own national parliaments, it is parliament that does appropriation. And even if the Minister of Finance mobilizes resources from wherever, once it has not been appropriated, you are not legally authorized to tap it. That's exactly what happened with the 3.5 million. The only way out was to come through a supplementary budget and budget revision session and get it on board to be appropriated. So otherwise, according to the rules that we have, there is no other way we can do it. For other institutions like the UN, they only have a voted budget on operational, member states assess contributions, but when they raise money from other partners, they can go ahead and implement programs. But it's not yet the case with us. So if there is anything to change to accommodate it, then we'll have to reform and amend the financial rules before we get to that level. So that's what exactly happened. It's not because we were discouraging the PAP to mobilize resources. On the budget hearings and on a consultative and advisory basis, I think we agree on this. Diaspora. Diaspora is indeed very critical. Our sixth region. We are still, as a union, struggling to how do we also channel the voices of diaspora. Who is the diaspora? Because it can be everyone, but how do they get organized and how do they get represented? We are still struggling with that even within ECOSOC. We are coming up with guidelines that member states would approve on how to onboard the voices of the diaspora. As we speak, we are working on that file. It is similar to how the civil society organizations had been also an issue to know who comes and represent civil society of a country X in the ECOSOC. Member states want to always control and be at the bottom of it to make sure that, it is the right voices that are going to be speaking for the diaspora. So I hope that once we have done that, then it will give us a path to eventually, if PAP is reformed and its membership redefined through that process of institutional reform, this is one of the ideas we can suggest to the champion of reform also to consider going forward. Last but not least, from the chair, the president of the PAP, I took note of these articles you cited, which we are going to, indeed to see how to amend ourselves going forward. With that, thank you so much. I've been long, but it's not easy to attend to 22 interventions that I apologize if I missed one aspect of your intervention, your honorable members of the parliament. Apologies, just that maybe I couldn't cover everything in the short time allocated. Thank you.
You can hear the loud applause, Your Excellency. Once more, we want to salute both of you, the chair, yourself, for the presentations and also the time you have spent to listen to the debates and respond. You are not the only AU official, so we can't put all the blame on an individual. It's an institution. It's an institution. Are you still there? Yes. Yeah, you are there. I would want to say thank you as I look at you. I want to thank you and inform the members that, yes, the relationship between PAP and the AUC was acrimonious, but it has improved a lot, very, very much. And the AUC, and particularly the vice chairperson in her capacity as head of finance and admin in the AU, supported PAP's budget requests, including the supplementary budget, and we attribute the success that we scored in the amounts allocated in supplementary to her office and her boss. And want to thank you very much for that. We wish you were there next year again. Maybe the figures would go much higher. Unfortunately, we are leaving. But I want to close by saying, when you give notes to whoever is coming, this confusion about oversight and being legislative is an avoidance of the truth. Oversight is not lawmaking. Oversight is not lawmaking. If you look at the protocol says, and if you see the protocol in our constitutions differ. In the national parliament, it says it's parliament which appropriates and approves budget. In the case of our protocol, it says we will consider and make recommendations to the assembly. And recommendations is part of advisory. So no, a real qualified lawyer cannot say advisory and consultative are inconsistent with considering a budget and making recommendations. And they say unless PAP, unless Malabo is finally ratified, whoever is coming, tell them that's an excuse. It's by people who don't want PAP. Otherwise, we want to thank you. I know you are late for other business. Meet you next time. We are still there up to February. So we look forward to more engagements anyway, up to February. Thank you very much. Nashukuru sana. Muito obrigado. Shukran. Merci beaucoup. Thank you. Thank you. As you know, the Secretariat is there to continue advising that there was an oversight with some dignitaries, officials who arrived and then sat at the back. They were supposed to have been invited into the chamber. And that is the Madame Eva Grace Kavuma, Group Director General of Africa Capacity. Risk capacity building. We apologize. Nobody noticed your arrival, but I can assure you that you are part of the chamber. As we come from lunch, we formally invite you to come into the chamber. We apologize for that omission. Madam Clerk, you have some announcements?
The announcement is that after this, the close of the adjournment of these proceedings, there'll be lunch served in the foyer for MPs, and the President will invite his special guests to the presidential boardroom for lunch in the main building. Thank you.
Like yesterday? Yes. Same format, same people? Is it? Thank you. We meet, I think, at 2:30. But let's adjourn now, and we resume 2:30. Thank you very much.